through this handout, which is the impromptu speech. This is going to be your persuasive speech number 1. So if you were here last time, what we talked about is that we're going to do 2 persuasive speeches next week. One will be on Tuesday, and one will be on Thursday. This will be the one that we're going to do on Tuesday. So let's get us started for that. And once you get the structure down, the other will come rather easily. But let's get the structure down, or the idea, or the concept of it, and then I can, at the end, we'll talk about the other speech as well if there's time. So the impromptu speech is a speech that is traditionally given with little or no preparation at all. And it's something that we hopefully will assist you in the quote-unquote real world. So Aria, go ahead and what are your 3 best qualities?
I am hardworking, determined, and organized.
So what are these 3 qualities that Aria just told us about? They're her 3 best qualities. But what is she talking about it in context to? Why did you start that?
Well, because normally when people ask me that, it's like for a job interview, so those are...
I'm interviewing a friend.
Oh, a friend?
Yeah, I'm kidding. So now if I'm interviewing you as a friend, what are your 3 best qualities?
I am funny, caring, and generous.
Oh, it is so important to have all those things, and those are wonderful qualities. Good job, hon. I like all of those things. We are oftentimes asked questions or asked our opinion or asked our perspective on different topics, most often and notably ourselves when it comes to the process of interviewing. But in the grand scheme of how we look at communication and our part in it and our process in it, our hope and our goal here for you at LMU is that you become these amazing and active, wonderful agents of change. And the way in which you can always go about making that change is, of course, through action and through doing service. But the way that even that action and that service takes place is typically through the process of communication. To be able to understand why you are doing what you are doing, to be able to stand up for social justice when you see it occurring, to be able to talk about what integrity and alliance code is. All of that, we hope to give you some tools that you can go out and you can feel competent and confident in expressing your ideals, in expressing who you are, in expressing your convictions. And once you get the hang of this process of fluidly speaking, impromptu speaking or off-the-cuff speaking becomes much more easy. And the thing about me wanting you all to be able to speak off the cuff is that when we volunteer to be speakers, or when you are in a classroom and you raise your hand and speak, or when we're in a group of individuals and you assert an idea or an opinion and nobody else does, excellent communicators and those who step up to speak are always looked at as leaders. Now, I'm not saying they're always good leaders, because we know a lot of crappy leaders who are great speakers. But the first step in each of you becoming a standout individual, and that means either in a classroom or in a work setting, is going to be your ability to assert your voice. And when we're at like the lower level positions of maybe our organization or even in our social circles, you're going to have very small amounts of time to actually assert your voice. And when you do, you want those to be mindful and poignant. If you've ever gone back and been like, I could have answered that so much better, or I should have said this, or I wish I would have done this, it simply takes a couple of practices, if you will, to get in not only to get in the groove of being able to speak, but also once you get a little structure in your head, it becomes very easily to take that same structure and use it to answer any type of question or assert any different type of opinion or idea you have. Now the good news, all of you in that back pocket, go ahead and pull it out. Oh, look at that. You're going to have this structure and this tool after doing this speech, but guess what? You already what? Have it. You've been doing it since the first day at school. You've been simply doing it in a bit of a different way. So when I say what are your 3 best qualities on a job interview and you're interviewing for your dream position, you said you were dedicated, you were hardworking, and you were what? Organized. which is an excellent quality. But in this case, now what has happened? As a critical listener, as a critical thinker of rhetoric, what has she not done? Oh my goodness! How many of us simply give these one-word answers, right? And of course, any job interview would allow you to expand upon that. However, imagine if you were able to come in and communicate not only what your best quality was, but give an example of that quality, and then maybe tell us a little bit about how that quality would work in their what? Organ. And that's why they should. Oh my God. What? It's like a claim, some evidence, and a what? Oh my God. Yes, everyone. So perfect. This same structure is not only helpful because it will allow you to organize your thoughts. You know the end goal. You know where you're going. It prevents you from rambling. But also, it allows that individual to see you as somebody who is what? Competent in what? Communication. And the number one quality that is going to be on every single one of your job postings in the future is going to be excellent what? Written and verbal communication skills. They want to see that you can do it. And if you can provide evidence for that beyond like, I took a writing class, I took a rhetorical arts class, and then they'll say, what's that? And you'll be like, I don't know. I think we wrote, we spoke. But then what you can do is you can simply demonstrate it. So that shows leadership. It shows maturity when you're able to communicate your ideas clearly. It shows that you are organized and that you have done the work and the responsibility, that you have researched the company, that you're there and that you're mature and that you are ready to be a leader for them. And so I know it seems like, oh yeah, that's very dramatic. But if you think about the very ease of a job interview and how it so much does rest upon it, many of you place a lot of importance and weight on those job interviews. And so it is a very important skill to build your credibility, to build your abilities within one other's eyes, to show what you're capable of. Because each of you are amazing on paper. It's how you got in here. Did any of you do a formal interview? No! And you're going to be the number one person to graduate from your engineering school. And I'm so excited about that. But if you can't tell me about engineering and you can't tell me about what you can do, I do not want you in my company. I'd rather have the person who got the C's but can actually talk about it. Does that make sense? Okay, good. Because that's the type of individual that you want working within the environment that you want to produce for your company. So, again, I think I said this on the first day of class, but communication is the vehicle by which each of your disciplines exist. There's no real purpose for each of us to have even a major if you can't simply sit and talk about it, right? You can study and you can take tests and you can do all of that, but if you can't talk about it and you can't explain it and it can't be a part of you, then it's not very worthy in that way. So let's continue along. And what I would like for us to do is, I'll talk through the process. So on Tuesday when you come in over, what we'll do is we'll sign up on the board. I'll have all of the numbers up here, so it'll be 1 through 19. If there's any of you who are coming late or coming from somewhere else and you want me to put you in a spot, simply let me know and I can do so, but just let me know in advance. And then what we'll do is it will work in a round robin or an on-deck situation, like I said. Up in the front here, there will be a bunch of quotations. The first person, let's say it's Amanda. I'll grab my quotation, I'll look at it and smile. And then I'm going to go outside, and I'm going to have about 4 minutes, or 3 minutes, 4 minutes, to prepare that speech. At the end of that time, you'll hear all this clap, yay, come on, Amanda, and I'm like, yeah, I can do it. And then you'll come back in, and the person who's number 2 on the list will come and grab theirs and go outside. So they will be preparing while you are delivering. If that person only speaks for like 1 whole minute, which they won't, then yes, I will give you more time. I'm not that person who's like, well, you only have 30 seconds. Again, I want to see you succeed. This isn't me setting you all up to fail. Okay? All right, yes, son?
Can we bring our speeches with us so we can take information from it?
For the other one, yes. For this one won't be about your speech at all.
Okay.
Wait, so the speech is 1 minute?
No.
Oh, okay. So it's 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I was saying, like, if the person only speaks for
Oh,
1
okay.
minute, don't worry. I will still allow you the opportunity. Okay. Oh, so your job in this speech, you're going to be given a quotation or some type of proverb or maybe like a parable, a saying of some sort. Now, I know what you're all thinking already. Oh my gosh, Amanda, what if I don't understand it? How many of you are thinking that? Look, what if I don't understand it? What if I don't get the quote? Great. Let me put your mind at ease. All of them are simply like metaphors. It's not like when life throws you lemons, make lemonade. Literally, I'm going to make lemonade, right? But these quotations, these proverbs, these parables, your job is to interpret that quotation in whatever way you want to. There is no right or wrong. So whatever you have a idea that that's what it is, that's what it is. I've never had somebody in my 15 years of teaching not be able to do this. So it's not like I'm setting you up with like disastrous quotes. Okay. You are going to take that quotation and you are going to interpret it, and then you are going to tell us why you either agree or disagree with that quote and why. And that is going to be the entire purpose of your speech, is to communicate that agreement via the why. You get to come up with your what it means. You will be required to use vivid, meaning let's use our language, let's help us see it, let's not use all this like a basic description. Everyone was there. People were splattered around the room. You could do something like that. And also specific examples, and we'll talk about this as I go into your structure. The last thing here, I expect you to maintain poise throughout this entire process. When you are asked, so Aria, what are your 3 best qualities? Aria did not go like, oh, Amanda, this is so hard. No, she poised up. That's what she did. She Aria'd up, and she said what? She gave it to me anyways. Just like on your job interview, you're never going to sit there and be like, oh, I hate that question. I hate it when, no. You'll never do that. Miss America pageants, I'm not like, I'm not answering. No, it's all happening. Did you see Miss Wisconsin or Miss Minnesota? Miss Minnesota. In the Miss Wisconsin pageant, she's the first to wear a hijab. It's a magical moment, and I feel like if you need to like comment on something good happening for equity, that's your story to look at, friends. Let's change that standard of beauty pageant. Oh, hi, hon. Did you find it?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so glad. Oh. So you will be expected to maintain that poise, meaning if you forget what you're talking about mid-speech, what do? Say, I forgot. Take a breath. On a job interview, and this used to be a great class called business communication, but we'll get this preface now. In a job interview, if you don't know what you want to say, do you just start rambling? Is there any like rules on that? Do you ever get nervous? Like, what if I don't know what to say? I mean, it's most of us. It's like, so Jose, tell me about yourself. You're like, none of you get nervous. Like, oh my gosh, what if I don't know what to say? What if I forget what I'm saying? Yeah. So what do we do in those moments or those situations? What have you done up here? Okay, look at your notes. Yeah, huh?
Take a breath.
Good. Keep taking that breath. You can also say to the interviewer, that is an interesting question. I'm going to take a minute and think about it. You don't ask the question, can I take a minute? No. Assert yourself. I'm going to take a second and think about that. And then gain your composure and then keep going. The same thing will happen up here, right? If you lose your train of thought, pause, consider, think it through. And then begin again. It doesn't matter how long it is. No need for the hoeing and humming. Sound good? How is it 100 degrees in this classroom? Are you hot? I have not been hot one time today.
It's cold outside.
Yeah, hot.
On the bigger
Well, you're not going to have time to write it, but I'll tell you about how to do that. Don't worry. I'll go through all the processes. So, organization and delivery will be important in the speech, and that's here. I'll talk to you about this packet. This right here on page 2 is the structure for this speech. Because you're allowed to bring one piece of paper front and back up with you, I encourage you today to not write on this piece of paper, and instead use this as the piece of paper that you bring out with you to start to prepare your speech. Why? The structure is already set for you, and then right next to each of those ideas, you can write your topics, like, and that's my example, and that's how it will go. Does that make sense to y'all? So on the back side here, it's empty. But that doesn't mean that it has to be. So I'm going to talk to you about preparing in advance for an impromptu speech. Amanda, but it's off the cuff. Yeah, but so is a job interview. Would you ever go in unprepared? No, right? Like, if we don't find out about a company, how do we know what they're looking for? We don't have a central idea. I know that they should hire me, but, like, I don't know how I fit into this plan. I don't know how to make myself sound like this is why I should be a part of this. I don't know how to, like, tailor my examples if I haven't looked at, like, what their company does or what their job is requiring or perchance what their mission statement is. All of those resources are ways that we can start to adjust our answers and then give it back to them, being grounded in some kind of focus. Does that make sense to y'all? Okay, good. So we'll do that. So on page 3 is going to be your evaluation sheet. So you'll just bring this in on Tuesday, and this will serve as your evaluation sheet. Just put your name at the top and your number on it, and you can leave it on the front desk. Sound good? Okay, so don't forget this. Okay, evaluation sheet. All right, so what I'm going to go do is I'm going to go through page 2, and we're going to walk through it, and I'm going to walk you through the structure. So if you want to use this paper here as a like guideline or something that you write on that day, simply pull out an extra piece of paper right now, and you can take notes on that if you would like to. In the meantime, let's talk about this speech and how it's going to go. Now, typically, I have a lot of strategies because, well, I used to coach speech and debate at Cal State Northridge, and when I did platform speaking, which is essentially what I'm doing, and impromptu speaking is one of those platforms. And so I have a lot of tips and tricks on how to make this flow. Much like I always say, do not start. No, I don't need you to stop. I just was saying, what? Can I help you? And you can ask Lauren. You don't have to.
Oh, no, I didn't hear.
Okay, so I like this.
Yeah, but don't worry, it's
Can
recorded.
I talk to you after?
Yeah, and it's recorded.
Alright.
Yeah. Okay. And at the end, we can also do questions.
Wait, what did you say? Oh,
Does it feel like Lauren's going to ask you, and then you're going to
what's
watch
the
process?
topic of the impromptu speech?
Yeah, we'll talk about that. There won't be like a topic per se. It'll be your you're going to get a quotation or a proverb or a parable, and you're going to have to interpret it. That's your job. Okay. So hello, Maya. I'm so happy to see you. We're just talking about the fun of impromptu speaking. And I'm happy that you're here because you need to hear about how easy this is. So look at that. So take out a separate piece of paper and look at page 2, and let's get ready. Like every single speech that I've told you thus far, do not worry about this introduction in so much. And what I don't want you to worry about for this speech is your attention getter. That is the thing that you think about literally as you're walking in the door. Because people will go out and they will spend their entire 2 to 3 minutes outside being like, what's a funny joke? Or like, what's an interesting start to this? Don't even worry about that. It is so low stakes, the attention getter on this, that is the thing that you're going to put out on the side, okay? What's up, Maya? Okay. I don't know if you've all realized my emotional intelligence, how high it is, because I feel every emotion in your room. So that's like why I always have to like be like, why? What the face? What's going on? What the face? Why the face? Like, Bill Dundee. WTF? Why the face? So think about that attention getter second, or when you walk in the door. The first thing that you need to do, since when you come into the classroom, and this is a friendly reminder for those of our friends who are just coming in, once you enter the classroom, we're going to sign up on the board. The order will go, but there will be parables and quotations and proverbs out on the table. So once it's your turn to prepare, you will go outside, and the first thing that you are going to do is look at that quotation. So if you see here, in your introduction, your job is to read the quote and read the author. You get points for that. Isn't that exciting? But what we need to do is that once we get our quotation, we have to start to interpret it. So your attention getter will be first. And then, like always, you reveal the topic, right? That's what the purpose in the introduction is, right? It's like the attention getter, the reveal topic, and the thesis. Absolutely. So the attention getter is given. That leads us into your quotation. And you then tell us the quote that you were given and who said that quote. Does that make sense to everybody thus far? Once you say the quote and you give the author, your job is to tell us whether or not you agree or disagree with the quote and why. This is the central idea. This is the purpose that you are coming back to. Every single time you have an example, a story, anything, you go back to the why. And that is your purpose. Ella, life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. Do you agree or disagree?
Agree.
Because
That's what it's like. I just like, wait. I
because
want to be on this spot.
it doesn't matter. Like, we're just playing around. Huh? There's no right or wrong answer. It's up to you. You agree because, think about it. Jennifer, life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. Do you agree or disagree? Hallie, life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. Do you agree or disagree? Fantastic. So now let's come back to Ella. Because
Because you never know what you're going to get in life. Because it's just how it plays out.
it's how it plays out. Because I disagree because
Because you can interpret your life by showing your, by doing your work. I don't know.
yeah, you pave your own path. That's right, hon. Okay, good. Ellie, you agree because
Because life is pretty unpredictable. You can't actually know what's going to happen any day.
now each of you just came up with your central idea in how much time? Did each of you also decide if you agreed or disagreed in your head? Did you come up with a because? That is the first thing that you do when you get that quote. Amanda, can I agree and disagree? Absolutely. That's the best part about life. I can want a child and absolutely not want a child all in the same breath. But for the purpose of this speech, you can only choose one. And that's only to help you keep on track and just go with it. So don't get yourself all confused. But I do both. Go with the first thought that you have there. Do I agree or disagree and why? So the first thing that you think when you get your quotation is, do I agree or disagree and why? So the first thing that you think about when you get your quote is, do I agree or disagree and? And last time, gee, I wonder, the first thing you do when you get your quote is think about your attention getter? Madeline? Okay, good. What do you do instead? You get that quote and you think, ooh, I should get an attention getter. No, I should. And why? You're right. You're totally right, hon. Don't worry. We said it 5 times. It's the same. You're right. Agree or disagree and why? Then you have your central idea, and your only job is then to develop a little something called your what. Back to speaking times. A central idea and some main points. We'll call it a speaking. There you go. Fantastic. So your job is going to be to come up with 2 to 3 ways, because what are we missing to make a thesis? Yeah. 2 to 3 ways or main points to exemplify that agree or disagree. So Jennifer and Hallie, or Hallie, let's start with you. How did you come to agree so fast? What did you recall in order to draw to that conclusion? Because her reasoning happened pretty quick. Is it? How do you know it is? Okay, good. Has life always gone your way? How many years experience do you have learning about this life is like a box of chocolates now? Yeah, okay, so some of you have like 18, some of you have 19, some of you have 17 years of seeing this happen every day that maybe gave you an idea of that. Or perchance, maybe you were raised with the idea that of the opposite. That your future is not determined for you. If that was the idea that was constantly given to you, then you've probably looked at the world around you and seen all right, well, it didn't go this way, how can I do it this way? Oh, well, I'm not going to get my hopes up. I'm not going to get this. All excited about it because I don't want it to not go that way, right? Where else have you seen examples to make the conclusion? Fantastic. So what each of you should start to do, we're starting to get an idea here. We need to come up with 2 to 3 main points that are going to help illustrate how you came to either your agreement or disagreement. Because everybody in here is going to have a different answer. Everybody in here is typically going to have a different why or a different because, right? So you are going to need to come up with 2 to 3 ways that this agreement is going to be communicated. And that's through these main points. So what are we going to do to find main points? Well, the perfect thing that Bianca just said is, maybe I saw it in a movie. Where else did you learn about the world around you, about human experiences, about life, about information, about knowledge, about what's going on? Okay, and in school, oh good, yes, books, that's fun. I like to also watch TV shows because y'all know that my entire, reference of life is drawn from TV. So I'm like, oh my gosh, that one time with Phoebe, right? Mm-hmm. It's really how I communicate to the whole world around me. If you don't have friends, we're going to have a hard time. Movie, books, TV, what else? Parents. Oh, that's good. Okay, let's keep this one over here. Oh, good. All right, everybody. I'm going to give you an idea that maybe you read a newspaper once. Maybe you learned it by watching a what? A sports game. Oh, yeah, sure. Maybe you watched a YouTube video. Good, like the charismatic speaker. The point that I'm trying to make here is there are 1,000,001 different resources that you can turn to find examples or to find support for why you believe or agree with what you believe in. There are news stories, there's human interest stories. Maybe you saw it one time in an artist. Oh my gosh, no. in an art piece or from an artist, or perchance there was a dancer who showed you this experience or who told you about this experience or who communicated this experience to you. Perchance it's through music or through a band that you follow. Maybe there's a magazine that you read, or perchance a political figure that is experiences or the way that they lived their life was explained. Perchance there was a history story that occurred. You can find resources in numerous ways. Now, I want to let you know in on a little secret. Much like that of preparing for a job interview, you don't know what they're going to ask you, but you know what the job is because you applied for it. You know what the company is because you're going there and you're working on it, right? And then you do some Googling and you try to find out whatever else you can. So you do, however, prepare in advance. The same thing happens with this idea of impromptu speaking. I'm going to let you in on a secret that the quotations, proverbs, and parables that you will receive will be about overcoming a challenge in order to accomplish something. So it's like going through a hardship and then coming out the other end. Through this trial, we learned a good lesson. So it's about like hardship, motivation. Does that make sense to you? Overcoming, perseverance. Think of all those words together. So your job, if you now know that, what types of main points are you going to be looking for? Examples, stories, situations, movies, movie characters, plot lines, that all do what? Demonstrate an opportunity or somebody who has gone through something difficult and overcome that adversity. So who's somebody who's had a difficult time and had to overcome adversity in order to continue to go on? And I'll give you a hint. It's everyone. It's any single story that you've ever read about in your life. You could prepare for this speech by picking up a newspaper 2 minutes before you give this speech. And if you read like 2 stories, you'd be fine. Because the story is going to be hardship, and then how did they handle it to come out. And that could be like the perfect exemplification. So if you think about it, some of you have favorite sports heroes, like who? Kershaw. You think you know somebody. Is this a baseball player? Okay. Kershaw, the baseball player. Did he just wake up and was like, you know what I want to do? Be a baseball player. I'm going to do that today. Did he?
He threw a perfect game and struck it out of high school.
Oh, good for him.
Well, the Cubs still won.
Seriously.
Congratulations.
And that would be a great thing to talk about, like if he's done interviews, right? Or like, let's say there was a time when somebody had a rough go and it came about it. Our friend Michael Jordan, we all know his story. He got cut from his what? His high school basketball team. No, can't be on the team, Michael Jordan. Not very good. But what did he do? He just rolled over and was like, forget it. Now we don't hear about it. No! He persevered. What did he do? How did he get through it? What did he do? Specifics. And then that shows us that he what? Came out on the other side, right? So your job over the next couple days is to start to examine and look for 2 to 3 main points that are going to work to exemplify your quote. You are required to be specific in your main points. So I wouldn't talk about something like, so I'll use war, for example. War is hard, and lots of things happen, and people have a hard time, but then at the end, they're okay, and their country wins. That's why, no. I need to hear about the specific war, literally the specific steps, the time, the date, so that we can literally see it as an audience, how that works. not making like hasty generalizations about things. Does that make sense to y'all? Okay. So in the case of life is like a box of chocolate. Oh, but here's the deal. So you're required to have 2 to 3 main points. No personal main points. So when Sarah said, how did you learn about it? Sure, you learned about it through your parents, but I don't want you to use your parents as an example. Does that make sense? So like if they told you a story, that'd be a good one about, I don't know, a historical figure that somehow succeeded somehow. But we're not going to use any personal main points. Use examples outside of yourself. Show me that you can relate to something without it being about you per se. In regards to the no personal main points, though, that rule for me applies only if you are doing 2 main points. If you decide to go in for the 3 main points, which you don't have to have 3, the third one can be personal if you want it to. But here's where my hint comes in. The first thing that comes to each of your minds when you get your quotation, Hallie, for example, Ella, thanks. I'm like, Ellie and Hallie? No, Ella. And Jennifer, all of you, probably the first thing that you thought about was not like, let me think about Oprah's life and her box of chocolates. No, you first thought about how you understood it because you had what? What? Well, Forrest Gump, perfect. But how you had experienced it, right? So that's probably going to be the first thing that comes to each of your mind is going to be the personal example, right? When I say life is like a box of chocolates, you never know what you're going to get. Would each of you maybe be able to tell me an example from your own personal life that related to that? Exactly. So if you don't have to have 3 main points and you have that story in your back pocket, gee, where would you use that instead? That's right, Sarah. That's the answer I was looking for. You're an attention getter. When we're talking about an attention getter, you don't want to give a quote for an attention getter. A quote without a quote with a story with a quote. That doesn't make any sense, y'all. We're not using a quote. Right? You can use a joke if you want to. But what a great way to start it than maybe with a story, and an own personalized story. When it's your story, it's going to be more authentic. You know it. You don't have to worry about looking down at a paper, do you? No, you don't have to worry about looking down at a paper. All of this together will make it, friends, nobody has an Mac charger? Really?
I love PCs. Sorry.
Dang it, she does. And she was coming after her. Okay. I'm going to sign off. You